Hello, it's been a while. Hope you're part of the body that's enjoying some of the great advancement that's going on in the church today. It's been a while since I done a video. I think that's primarily because a lot of people have been doing such good insights, such inspiring things they put out. I just not felt the need to add something on, but I think there's something I like to add that deals a little bit more with the context in which we'll live out the prophetic opportunities in front of us. You know, in this, what was meant by COVID to be this great restriction, this corralling in of the body, it's actually been a great catapult into whole new frontiers. We're seeing revival on so many different fronts. Prayer networks are bursting up, worship's gone from the building into the streets, and prophetic dreams and insights and revelation is just quantumizing. It's just everywhere. And so we're in a really, really good time. Yet, maybe arguably so, we might be facing the greatest shaking that in our day the church has faced. And in the middle of that shaking, I feel like some of the things that's happened is that the wineskin may begin to show a few cracks in how we're operating. Jesus was really pretty clear, and it might be applicable for us today. He said, if you take new wine, of which there is lots and lots of new wine being poured out, if you pour new wine into an old wineskin, that doesn't have the flexibility, it's rigid and it can't flow with the adjustments, you could wind up losing the wine. And if we look back at some of the most difficult sections, corridors within the context of the pandemic, we can see that some of the most powerful churches actually failed or had some difficulties, didn't work through. A lot of these things we're even trying to figure out how we're even going to go through this still. And yet, a thing that I'd like to point out, a subtle thing that began to emerge is through the Zoom call, let's say. I feel like there's a portion of the body that I've seen that has kind of zoomed away from the big box Sunday experience and has kind of zoomed in and focused on smaller gatherings of a few people, walking tight with people that you're closer with, kind of like the saying, who's your tribe and who are my people? So during that interval, uh, it's kind of gone through the changes. And I think one of the things that we've seen is that the wineskin we're operating with does work fairly well in a culture where the society and the economic conditions are favorable towards the church. But the reality is that we're facing sort of a cataclysmic face-off between conservative and liberal values. And if liberal values continue to move at this pace, especially around the election, if they continue to move at this pace, we may find that we're facing a wineskin adjustment that may need to have some real significant look at. If the wineskin that we're in starts to be restricted and can't be used, and if for some reason we can't meet together in the future in our buildings through COVID or through uh, governmental restrictions. If you look at the state of California, it's illegal to have church meetings, and as far as I know, in a home church, you can't have more than 3 people. If this advances, then I think our wineskin could be a bit of a difficulty. And I'd like to put forth a couple of concepts here. In the Western church, we have built a very solid, centralized wineskin. It's centralized on all front. It's included by large Sunday services, buildings and economies, budgets around a centralized system. And if you actually take a look at that centralized system, in a sense, you could see it works well in a lot of situations. But if you look at the book of Acts, that centralized system worked quite well, Acts 1 through 7. But when persecution came along and hit, and all of a sudden there was a scattering, the diaspora, where they were spread out all over the place, that centralized model actually wasn't a functioning model. And so what I'd like to look at is that both a centralized model and a decentralized model are very biblical. So in that diaspora, it's like things that were centralized then became decentralized and were scattered in different countries with different leaders. Uh, Economics, leadership all became localized and with local people elected in local places. And so the thing I'd like to point out in that is a sense of a type in the larger scale. While that was big historically at a couple times in history, it may be a bit of a window for here. If for some reason we get to a point where we're restricted and we're not able to gather together, then the decentralized model could be a severe problem. And churches need to figure out what they're going to do with that. That might mean that they go to cell groups and dispersing to a certain degree, or it could give rise to the emergence of the decentralized model that's used in much of the church in other parts of the world where the persecution is part of the reality. And in that sense, it's localized and it's independent, and it's like going from Acts 7 to Acts 8, where it was the environment that caused the wineskin change. It wasn't just by choice, it was the environment, it was opposition that came their way. And so, what I've done is I've written a paper that's attached to this, and I just want to reach out and encourage you to go through that paper because I can't Peggy and I work a lot to word craft. We'll craft down our words, sometimes sentence by sentence, that actually need to stop and pause and think over. There's no way I can cover that in a video here. So I just really want to encourage you to go ahead and to spend some time. It'll actually be like 4 typed out pages, so it's a bit long, but it actually deals with what is the context. So we can have lots of incredible, accurate, and prophetic words, but how are we going to live? Where are you going to be, and who are you going to live with? And what are the systems in the wineskin that we can actually use to make it work? And so I hope it's helpful to you. I'd love to have some interaction. I know that Peggy and I have spent much of our life involved in helping the larger centralized model work, and we'll continue to do so. But we're actually, in a sense of understanding a little bit the sons of Issachar, kind of reading the times and kind of, I think, where we may be going in the near future or the not near future. But we're going to spend more of our time investing in a wineskin model that I'll detail a little bit more in the writing that can have a better ability. I think innovation is going to be key, no matter where you're at in church life. Innovation, flexibility, and adaptability needs to be crucial components of the wineskin and the community that you live with. So I hope this is a blessing to you, and we'll be praying for you. Bye.